I went through a lot in my life. As I said, when I was 8, I found my dad get shot in front of me, right? And he was a honest man, working hard, you know. And as a young person growing up, you know, that wasn't easy. I could have grew up with a lot of revenge, you know, and I could have said I would give up, and I didn't. I realized that you don't have to be what people want you to be. Because someone do bad to you, you don't have to come out and do the same, you know? I normally get up 5 o'clock every morning because I have to get my daughter ready to go to school. I kind of loving it still, you know? There was a situation, you know, my daughter was removed from my house. That was like heartbreaking for me, you know?
Today she have egg and she have bread and butter.
And you travel to a different country to make better for your kid, and I have to face a situation like that. It was hard. That's all I can say. It was hard, man. But you know what? I got help.
Some people were born on third base and think they hit a triple, whereas that was just a situation they were born into. And there are a lot of guys that haven't even made it to first base yet. It's not their fault. So what Building Up tries to do is get everyone in third base, get everyone on an even playing field, so that they then have the opportunity to take the next step for themselves. And what we do is use trades contracts to provide work and training experience for people with barriers.
I remember the day, like when I was going to do the interview, just before I did it, I actually cried, you know? Tears were just coming down my eyes because to know that I was going through so much stuff and I could just get a chance to reach that level. It was a great feeling, you know? My journey just started. I started doing some indoor class work. I'm Marissa, my math teacher.
The trades are physical, but the trades are also very much math-based. Guys really need some thorough math training to help them get through their job on a daily basis.
Something I particularly liked about the way that they worked was that when they ran into problems, you know, they didn't sort of treat it as though it was a setback. Building Up's attitude was, we're just going to make it work. We're going to fix it. We're going to do it right. We're going to do it the first time. It makes sense for anybody, I think, in this business to use Building Up. The savings are just a no-brainer. The payback took just under a year for the total cost of the project. There's an overwhelmingly positive response from all of our tenants, and we haven't had a single complaint about any of the work that was done, which is very rare for us.
Why not extract that extra value of changing 8 people's lives by just spending the same amount of money with one company rather than another?
A couple months ago, you wouldn't have me sitting here in front of a camera and doing this. I got that from Building Up to be more confident, you know? I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. I hope I did well. That's my life and so much more.
All right. It doesn't matter how much time I watch that video, I get like goosebumps. So definitely want to, so really excited. I thought it was really important to show that video before I brought Marc on. I think it gives some context to the work that Building Up has been doing in the GTA. So Mark founded Building Up because he felt it needed to exist. He believes that the role of social enterprise is to connect people that want to make socially minded purchasing decisions with the opportunity to do so. Mark graduated the Richard Ivey School of Business, canoed across Canada, and understands the untapped transformative powers of construction. He combines lessons learned from life in the woods with a people first outlook to lead this organization towards its vision. Folks, welcome Marc Soberano. Mark, how are you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you doing?
It's good. You know, like there's something that gets lost when you like doing the introduction online versus like you get like an applause. I'm sure that was a good introduction. I'm sure that's applause worthy. But you know, this is what it is. But yeah, thanks that you can come here tonight, man.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to be here.
So, what is Building Up for folks who's hearing about the work that you guys are doing for the first time?
So Building Up is a pre-apprenticeship program. More so than anything, the whole point of Building Up is to connect people that want to get into the construction industry but are having trouble doing so without a bit of support into the jobs that are available, and there's all these employers that are looking to hire people. The way that we do that is a bit unique in that we also operate as a non-profit business, which is often called a social enterprise. So the idea is that, you know, we go out and we get contracts to do construction projects for people and for buildings, and we use that work opportunity not like a normal business would. You know, and a normal business takes on work to make money. We take on work to employ people and give them an opportunity for training, so that when someone's going through our Building Up program, they could learn math, they could get their driver's license, they could get support and, you know, getting housing, having someone to talk to, and someone to kind of steer them in the right direction with the job and the trades. But also they'll get to actually work and be paid for their time and work on job sites and get to know the industry and see if it's for them before kind of committing to this life. So that's really the idea of Building Up. More so than anything, it's just something to try to create some opportunities for people that deserve the opportunities and are having trouble getting them without programs.
So I'm going to mix these next two questions. So the first part of the question is, you know, what was the reason you started Building Up? And then the second part was what was it about the build model in Winnipeg that inspired you to do something similar here in Toronto?
So, I mean, we're based off an organization in Winnipeg, like Brandon mentioned, called Build, and I mean, what really struck me with this organization was, you know, it's kind of built on this idea that there's all these affordable housing buildings across our cities, and there's a lot of work to be done in them. Unfortunately, like, they're not kept up well by the people that are running them. And you know, the standard practice is if you need someone to help you do work in those buildings, they hire a contractor to come in and do the work. But then when that work's happening, all the income and experience that the company and the people that worked on that job did is just leaking out of the building, right? And meanwhile, there's people living in the building that live in these homes. They see the work needs to get done. Sometimes they're looking for work in the trades. Why would we not connect the people in the building to the work that needs to happen in their building so that they can not only have a better place to live, but they could also, in the process of getting a better place to live, learn some skills, get some income coming in, and sort of get some direction and support into getting into these jobs in construction, where there's all these construction companies that are trying to figure out how they're going to hire people, and they're saying, oh, there's a shortage of tradespeople. Meanwhile, there's people all over the place that are looking for work. So really, like, I saw the idea in Winnipeg as a way to connect all these dots, you know, connect the work in the buildings with the people in the buildings that need the work, connect the employers that are looking to hire people with the people in the community that are looking for work. And it really just seemed like a positive thing to put my energy into. And, you know, that was 6 years ago. A few years into that, I met my buddy Brandon over there, who Brandon hasn't mentioned this yet, but he did help build this organization and worked with me at building up for a long time. I think you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. I was saying I was leading into that, but you kind of you took away my punchline.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay. It's cool. So why did you choose a social enterprise model instead of a traditional nonprofit model to do this work?
It's a good question. I think for me, you know, I kind of came from a business background before. I studied business when I was in school. And I remember I was learning about different businesses, and I was seeing my classmates going off to their different jobs, and they weren't really grabbing me. And that was like the things that I was learning about and kind of the path I was on, but I wasn't so interested in the opportunities that were presenting themselves. And I started to learn about different businesses that were using their work as a way to do something positive. And, you know, I think there's a lot of things that are wrong with how our society works, and a lot of that comes as a result of the way that our society operates, which is all about business, right? And if business is a tool that's causing a lot of problems, why can't we use the same tool to fix it, right? Why try to slip something else into a world that really already operates one way? To me, it felt like the best way to get a lot of support for this organization and to put it in a position to grow was to be able to operate with the same tools that the rest of society operates in, with the business. And what's interesting is that having a business part of a training program actually, in my opinion, and like what I've been seeing over the years, actually makes the training program better. It gives you an opportunity to pay the individuals that are going through the program. And, you know, I think that's really important. People's time is valuable. And, you know, I think a lot of the people that joined Building Up needed to have that income coming in order to be able to kind of make that investment in themselves and take training, right? And then also, it gives people the experience to actually know what it's like working in a construction company before they go off and kind of commit their career to this thing. And then the last thing is that, you know, in a traditional program, you know, I don't know if anyone here has participated in different training programs, but sometimes, you know, they end, maybe it's 12 weeks, maybe it's 16 weeks, whatever it is. And when the program's done, if there's no one to hire you, then your experience is kind of done. But with the social enterprise, with the way that Building Up works, is if the program is done and you're not ready to move on to the employer, or the employer isn't ready to hire the person at that time, maybe they need a few months before they get more contracts or something like that, then the individual that graduated from the Building Up program can just stay working at Building Up, keeping the money coming in, getting more experience, and then kind of switch into that next step when the time makes sense for them, right? So you know, it kind of started as this kind of theoretical thing, but then ended up turning into what feels like a more powerful way to train people.
Like, I feel like you answered the question, but I still want to ask it, which is, I guess, going to the uniqueness of Building Up. Like, how was Building Up any different than many of the great construction pre-apprenticeship programs in the GTA?
So, I mean, I already explained like the model that's a bit different, right? The way that you get paid and you're working, a lot of your training is happening on site. But I think to me, like, what's even more important than that is the people. Some of them are on this call here. But I mean, like, I think training is only as good as the trainers, right? And in a situation where someone like Calvin, who in that video, you know, was expressing a lot of the challenges he was facing in life and why he decided he wanted to make a change, like, he needed some support in order to be able to take that opportunity on, and he took full advantage of it. But you know, Marissa, who's on this call, really like worked closely with him to teach him what he needed to learn to pass his union test and get in. And there's some other folks on this call that weren't working with Calvin, but have been with Building Up, and you, Brandon. And you know, I think it's about how much kind of love you put into the work every day, and I feel like that's a really important part of what's going on with Building Up.
Okay, cool. So why did you acquire Raising the Roof?
Yeah, so Raising the Roof, you guys might recognize Raising the Roof, this organization that they sell the toques with the little hats on with the little house on them. You know, they're trying to end homelessness. And one of the ways that they're working on ending homelessness is to actually create housing. You know, with Building Up, we meet a lot of people where, you know, it's hard for an individual to kind of move into a career and like wake up every morning and, you know, be properly nourished to work through a challenging day if you don't have a stable place to sleep at night. And that can be like an insanely challenging situation to deal with. So we do believe that it's really important for there to be more affordable housing across the city and across the country. And, you know, what we've been able to do with the combination of these two organizations is Raising the Roof. As they create more housing, they can hire Building Up to actually renovate the homes so that we can use the development of new housing as a way to kind of be like a temporary training center for the people that are going through our program. So the time that they spend in class is actually on a site where they're learning to build a home that's going to be used to house people in the community that need that. So to us, it kind of felt like a good addition to the kind of the services we're offering. And you know, I'm hoping that we'll be able to create a lot of housing, not only for Building Up people to learn in, but for some Building Up people to live in, and for people that aren't in Building Up to learn in and live into. So that's kind of the idea there.
Can you talk a little bit about, in the 6 years that you've been the ED for Building Up, can you talk about like what you've noticed around folks who are, you know, housing precarious, and, you know, whether participants or just being successful, and why is that the homelessness important when we talk about a career in the construction sector?
Well, I mean, I think like this COVID time is kind of proving more, you know, in a time where everyone's kind of staying away from the entire world and taking refuge in our homes. It's kind of made the importance of having a comfortable, safe place to be like more and more important, right? In a time where COVID's not going on, the same thing's true. Like, you're out there waking up early, spending all day on site working, you know, maybe you're hot, maybe you're freezing cold, working outside all day. Pretty hard to get back and do that again the next day if you don't have a stable place to live, you know? Like, there's a big movement called Housing First, which is just saying, you know, in order to kind of turn your life around, like, it starts with housing. If you don't have stable housing, then it's really hard to build a career, and it's really hard to have the stability and the kind of the mental health you need to keep moving forward. So I think one thing that Raising the Roof is trying to do is turn vacant houses across Canada into affordable housing. So the same way that there's all these employers in construction looking for people, and then there's all these people looking for jobs in construction, there's all these homes that are sitting empty, and there's people that are looking for homes. So it's just, it's not right. And, you know, I think in order for building up to be successful in a person's life, it's not just about getting someone a job, right? It's about getting someone in a situation where they feel supported, where they're comfortable, and they can kind of start to really shift the direction of where things are going for them. So housing is a huge part of that.
I hear that. And can you talk, as you're talking about housing, what is the relationship between Building Up and Toronto Community Housing, TCHC?
Yeah, so Toronto Community Housing, one thing I didn't realize before I started this is actually the second biggest landlord in North America. They have 60,000 units across Toronto. 60,000. That's an insane amount of apartments. And you know, they're housing so many people, and across these 60,000 units, there's, I don't remember the number, but there's billions and maybe trillions of dollars of work. I think it's billions of dollars of work that need to get done. So that work, you know, if you talk about TCBN, these community benefits, it's trying to say when money's being spent, how can you get more value out of it than just a new construction project? How can you get the community involved? So TCBN, I mean, Toronto Community Housing represents a massive opportunity with all the money they're spending on fixing up their buildings to get people engaged and working, and specifically because they have so many people living in their units that are looking for work. So Toronto Housing is our biggest customer at Building Up, and they've made a decision that they want the projects in their building to actually support the people living in their building, and we're working with them to make that a bigger part of what they do constantly. And we've been happy with how it's going, and it's been growing so much over these 6 years that we've been doing this, and I think it's going to continue to do that. But the idea is Toronto Community Housing, it's like a source of people that can join the program, but it's also a place where they can get experience and learn and be paid to do the work that's happening in those buildings. You're on mute again, Brendan.
Okay. Why was it important to you that Building Up paid the participants doing their training?
I think if we're telling people that them focusing on your math is just as important as, you know, learning how to swing a hammer and install a toilet and to do framing and drywall, then we need to give people the reason we need to show that with the money that we're able to share, right? So I think that's one thing. But also I feel like when we're trying to support people, it's not just about housing, it's not just about feeling heard, it's not just about giving some people some direction, but it's also about like the financial side of it too. And you know, if we have money coming in from these contracts that we're doing, that needs to be shared with all the folks that are actually doing the work. So that's the idea. I think a lot of people that join Building Up have been in positions where they've had to kind of bypass doing training at different times because they needed the funds to make things happen, right? So if we're going to get people to take this, to be able to commit to this, then we need to make it workable for them.
And I'm gonna skip to the next one because you kind of answered it. So you canoed across Canada some years back, and this and you know, you say you I guess the question is, what lessons did you take from that experience that you bring to your day-to-day work?
A lot, man. I spent 120 before starting building up. That was what I was doing. That was my job. I was taking kids on camping trips, you know, spending 2 months or 3 months every year taking kids through the forest, cooking food, living in the woods, taking care of each other. And to me, that was like, you know, I learned, I think, a lot. It completely changed who I am and kind of made who I am. But it's like this idea of like a community, and that, you know, we need to take care of each other. And like, you know, when it's pouring rain, it's not every person for themselves. It's like, okay, someone build the tent, someone make the fire. It's not about who does what. It's about all of us kind of working together to take care of each other, and then also to just like enjoy, right? And like to really just like relax, disconnect from the world, and enjoy nature. So I think these are things that kind of like sort of built my perspective that like business needs to be something that's for everyone. It's not just about making money for yourself. It's not about just building up your personal whatever as high as you can. It's just about like the community. Like it's about a community. Everything's about community and like being together and trying to make life positive. So that's one thing. But then also when I was in the woods for canoeing across Canada, it was 4 months with being completely separated from the entire world. And it was just me and 5 other people, and we were never further than 20 feet from each other. So I think I learned a lot about, you know, working with people and caring about people, and just kind of not sweating the small stuff. And I think that's been really helpful in just like relating to people on the building up team and outside of it, just kind of to get a bit of a clearer perspective about what life's about and how to treat people, you know?
I hear that. Has COVID-19 impacted the way building up or raising the roof carry out their mandates?
Yeah, I mean, when you're a training program and you got classes and classes, people gathering together, and then all of a sudden no one's allowed to be within 6 feet of each other, it's a big change. Also, you know, the fact that when before COVID started, we had something like 20 or 25 job sites going on where we had different participants working, getting different experience on different sites. Then COVID happened, and a week later that 25 sites was 0. So all the work experience people were getting was gone. All the revenue that people were paying us for that work was gone. And we really had to make a lot of tough decisions and quick changes. And, you know, Sarah, who's on the call here with their team, and Karen and Marissa, I don't know who else is on the call, but all those people were very quick in taking our training program and moving it to online. So all of our classes, all of the math, all of the trades training, everything is being done online through Zoom. And, you know, we're making it work as best we can. We're slowly, you know, there's more job sites opening up. People are getting more comfortable with the current reality, and we're finding opportunities to do some essential work and to get people back working. But it's going to be slow. It's already been slow. And it's really like a week by week process. And I think for raising the roof, it's made it more and more clear how important housing is. And I think it's shown a lot of people that the shelter system, how it's designed, isn't going to be the solution, right? Like, you can't be crammed in a space the same way that you used to be, even though that was never something that should have been done in the first place. So they're going to need to get more housing going, and raising the roof and building up will be a part of that, which will be a positive thing to come from this. Yeah, a lot of people, we had to put a lot of people's training on hold. A lot of people lost their jobs. And I'm thankful that the government came in and was able to support people that lost work, and also able to support organizations that were getting hit by the pandemic.
What are the top 3 challenges you see a pre-apprenticeship deal with that makes it difficult for them to be successful in your program?
It's a good question. I think that, one thing is, if you've got a lot of challenging things going on in life, our hope is that having the stability of a job that's paying $25 an hour and is going to be enough to kind of give you that financial flexibility to kind of make some different decisions. But the reality is that some of the stuff people are dealing with is really, really complicated, and a job alone isn't going to help it. And, we do our best to support people with more than just a job, but, different people react to different things differently, and different situations are more complicated. And unfortunately, this can't work for everybody, right? Someone told me once that if this works for everyone, it probably means that we're not trying to support the people that really need it, right? And I think that could be true in some ways. So yeah, I think one thing for sure, if I were going to name 3, is just complications at home, outside of work. And that's not just like a specific thing. It can be like a whole history of things, right? Or your whole life. So not claiming to be some sort of like magical secret healer that can make everything go away, right? But just claiming to like be a bunch of people that care and can be creative and trying to support in whatever way we can, and to really give someone like some individual love and support and everything we can, I think another one is housing that we were talking about earlier. If you don't have a place to live, then it can be really challenging. And we're here to, we're here to try to help people find housing, but it doesn't work every single time. And it can be challenging. And I think another thing that's happened is sometimes people aren't totally open, when it makes sense, why not, about what the challenges are that they're facing outside of work. And like, building up, and the people that work here are here to support in anything, not just about getting the job, but we can't really support with things we don't know about. And I understand why people wouldn't feel comfortable sharing every part of themselves, and we do our best to create a space where people feel open to share it. But it's not always the right time for someone. There's been a lot of people that it didn't work out with, but they came back 2-3 years later and it worked out. So
Cool.
those are a few things there.
Yeah. 6 years ago compared to now, has there been changes that you've seen in the construction sector from building up day one to now?
For sure. I think the work of the TCBN has been really important.
Talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I think there's a real understanding and a genuine interest, not everywhere, but in a lot more cases than if TCBN didn't exist, to diversify the people that are coming into construction, you know, and to open the doors to people that otherwise like aren't properly represented in this industry. And I think that's been clearer and clearer and clearer, you know, every year that this passes by. I think, you know, the construction industry is one that has this reputation of being really firm and like rude and racist and all of these negative things that are kind of against where the world is ideally going. And I think construction is probably starting from further behind than a lot of industries. And, you know, it's far from perfect, but I think it's moving in a direction where those issues are a little more out in the open. And I hope that the people coming out of building up are moving into a more comfortable work environment where they're accepted for who they are, you know. I think it's far from perfect, but I think it's getting better. And I think, you know, these community benefit agreements are really opening the door, and they're putting pressure on these unions and these employers to really look for alternate ways of filling these jobs. And it's not just the sons of the people that were in it before. It's like the men and women across the country that are looking to work with their hands and get into it, you know?
I hear that. So question here, you kind of talked about it like building up as a whole. You guys take a holistic approach. You guys have social workers on staff. You guys provide food in terms of the office for folks who may not have, you know. So as the ED, what are the metrics you look at when you consider growth within the organization and the work that you're doing?
I think one thing, the first thing we look at in terms of like looking at the success of the organization, it's not about how many people got jobs coming out of the program. It's how many people still have jobs today, you know? So I don't necessarily consider it a success if someone got a job coming out of building up 2 years ago, but they still don't have a job. You know, maybe the funders that are helping to support the program would still see that as success. But to me, that still means that there's room to improve it. And that's what we're trying to do. So it's really like, we look at like what percentage of the people are still working and are moving forward, and not just in their level 1 of apprenticeship, but are moving through level 2, level 3, becoming journey people. So that's one thing. And then another big kind of signal of if we're doing what we want to do is, you know, how much money are we paying to participants every year? So I was looking at some stats of ours recently, and the number of people that we supported in 2019 was actually like 15. It was like 100 people, and the year before it was 120 people. So, you know, you might look at that and say, oh, the program's not doing as well, but it provided double the amount of wages to the participants overall. So it's not necessarily just about how many people you train, but it's how deeply you can support them and you know.
I got you.
Yeah.
What do you love about the work that you do through building up and raising the roof?
I think I mean, I just think it's like a really good thing to be putting my energy into every day. Like I love like the challenge of trying to kind of bridge these two worlds of like business and positiveness, you know? Like it's these things, it's not, I might have said it in a way that makes it sound easy, but it's not. And, you know, we live in like this reality where we're trying to train people. We're trying to be competitive as a business and get contracts so we could train more people. But the second that people are really productive, we say, okay, go get a job at the union. And then we start again. So it's hard to run a business when you're constantly trying to get rid of your best people, you know? And it's it can be stressful, but it's also kind of fun. It's like, oh, got to figure this out, you know? And I like working with people every day. I like the human part of what we do, you know, and getting to know the guys that we work with, and yeah, you know, and seeing how people are doing.
I hear you. So we often hear about the success stories from pre-apprenticeship programs such as Building Up. But how do you deal with the stories of participants who end up in jail or get murdered after or during your program?
Yeah, man, it's I think all you can do is like use that as motivation to improve, you know. And it's definitely hard when you see people take steps backwards, and, you know, in worst case scenario, lose their life. But I think it just it's just re-energizes you to realize what it is you're doing. You know, it's common for me in my role at this organization to get to, I'm not spending as much time with the individual people that are going through the program. So it's easier for me to lose sight of what this is all about and everything that I just shared with you. So, you know, to hear something like that, just kind of re-energizes you and reminds you what's important with the work that we're doing, and you know, where to put your energy and where to put your time, and then just kind of try to learn from it and try to like honor those people's, not that there's been a lot of people that this has happened to, but to kind of honor their memory by trying to do everything you can to avoid that from happening with other people and giving them all the support they need and not just a job.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, just to give a bit of background on the image that we're looking at, this is the second cohort that I worked with. I was at Building Up for 4 years, and I learned pretty much everything I know about the construction sector from working at Building Up. And I when I was there, I did the training. I was a training and outreach manager. So I spent a lot of time with the participants for the in-class component. And this gentleman here, Kareem, lost his life a few weeks ago. So, you know, in the same cohort, and I resonated a lot with Kareem, and I got along with Kareem, and we had some like really sincere conversations. So it's like you build relationship with folks. It's not just a job. Like, you know, there's Marissa in the photo. It's not just about math, because like life is coming up. and myself as a Black man also intersected with a lot of the lived experience of the guys in the program, you know? So in the same image, you have, you know, one success story. That there's a bunch of success stories in this image, but then in that image, you have Kareem who didn't make it, you know, but, you know, and then the photo at the bottom was a photo last year that he came back to say, hey, I'm still doing the hunt. I'm going a different direction in the trade. But so it took me out for that week when I heard this news, you know? So I wanted to honor him by bring him into the space. And to also talk about the other side as well. What is the organizational culture at Building Up?
Yeah, there's a hard gear shift there, you know. But yeah, thanks for honoring Kareem in that way, man. The organization at Building Up, the organizational culture at Building Up is, you know, I hope it's one where, and I think it is one where everyone really cares about the people that we're supporting, and I think that's the number one thing, right? I think, you know, so long as everyone's really putting their energy into the work, then I know that we're going to be doing everything we can to support people, and I think everything else sort of falls into place from that. You know, you might have different ideas on how to best serve the work we're trying to do, and that can create situations where you got to talk it out, but it's a lot easier to settle an argument when both people have the same goal and the same intentions in mind, right? So I think the organizational culture is one where people care about the work. That's what we're trying to create, and also one where people can feel open and share what's going on. You know, I try to be approachable. I don't really try. You know, I hope I am. You know, and yeah. I mean, I the way I see it is like Building Up is an entity that exists in order to support people, and I hope that it supports everyone that's involved with it, whether you're a participant or whether you work here full time, you know, and it's meant to be something positive.
Yeah, I hear that. And for folks who are looking at this image, can you just explain who's in the image right now, basically?
Yeah, sure. That's Raheem, who runs our contracting sites, and who's actually just as of this week going to switch his role in the organization and become a case manager, and yeah, and work more closely with the guys that are going through the program, and that's his son, who I guess came to work with him one day, and Sarah, who's on this call, might recognize these people.
And then my final question before I open up to folks is, how do folks get involved with Building Up? And when are your next intakes?
So the way to apply to the program is through the website. That's what you mean, Brendan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's through the website. If you go buildingup.ca, maybe we could post a link in the chat. And there's a button on the top of the page, on the home page, it says apply now. And if you click the button, you put in your name, you have to attach your resume, and then we invite you out to an information session where you learn more. Then you go through an interview process, and you know, in general, we do an intake every 2 or 3 months. Right now with COVID, it's a bit dicey. We're hoping to start another group at the beginning of July. So if you're on this call right now and you're looking to get into construction and something I said sat with you, you thought maybe this is something for you, then there's no harm in going on the website right now, clicking the apply now link. Brandon posted the website there in the chat. You can just click that. It's not designed to be hard. You just put your name down and you upload a resume. You know, I wouldn't stress over what, you know, if the resume has a whole bunch of construction experience over on it. That's not the point here. We're looking for people, not necessarily that have been in the trades, but people that want to get into it. And if you are thinking, I want to apply, there's going to be a whole interview process. It's going to take a few days and a few meetings, and I would just urge you to go into it. If you're genuine about wanting to kind of take this pathway and get a career in construction, because if you are, you'll be able to share that in the interviews, and our team will be able to see that, and you'll be on your way, you know? So yeah, that's how you do it. I think it'll be, you got to do it in June. You can do it in May, but you've got to do it before the middle of June, because then we'll be able to do all the interviews and stuff we need to do before starting the July group.